What's up guys, Sir Salty here, and today I'm bringing you a full boss guide for Act 1. This will cover simple strategies for each boss so that you'll have the best chances of success and you won't lose any kitties to them. So let's get into it. Starting off in the alley, we have Lucy. Has 3 different attacks, which she will just rotate through. First is MC Blizz. First she'll start the charge on her one turn, and then unleash it the next turn. Anything caught by this will be frozen and pushed back. She will follow this up with MC Flamethrower, which will be a massive cone that she'll try to target as many cats in front of her as possible. And lastly, she'll have MC Thunder, which she'll channel lightning strikes, which will go in an X pattern away from her, with a decent chance to stun anyone who gets hit by it. The best way to deal with her is simple, just don't be standing in her attacks. Hopefully you can outspeed her and minimize the targets being hit. The next I'd recommend is having some displacement. While she's trying to charge up an attack, you want to change her position drastically, like having toss on the tank. And to be fair, I like this one the most because it completely trivializes her mechanics. And lastly, we have just any form of CC, because this will just interrupt her casting and meaning she won't be doing pretty much anything. Especially if you have the hunter's passive such as sleep darts, they'll give multiple CC chances on all your cats if you have no items equipped. And then just punish the hell out of her. Very simple and generally pretty easy to understand. But many people die to standing in shit all the time in WoW, so why would this be any different? Just don't stand in stuff. Simple. Very simple. The next mini boss we have is Magnus. Yes, I'm covering all the mini bosses first, then we're going to get the main ones. Magnus is very simple, but he is pretty devastating if you line up your team improperly. He can have a multiple spin attack, which is really bad for when you're trying to gang up on him, or he has this chain dash attack, where he will dash toward a cat and continue dashing until he does not hit a target. The chain dash also has a knockback effect, so be careful of that too. Now he might not seem like a big threat, but once he gets a chain dash where your cats are lined up improperly, he can really punish you. But sometimes you can end up punishing him when he goes and chain dashes himself into a corner. Definitely helpful if you have any traps because he will walk into them pretty stupidly a lot of the time, leading to some big damage opportunities. Alright, 13's not that big, but it was pretty neat. Another mini boss we have here is Maisie and her litter of kittens. A very simple premise, Maisie will go out of her way to defend her cats from any danger. What does that mean exactly? Well, she will bodyguard to any cat that is threatened, switching her position with the cats and will take the damage. This will apply to any cat that is targeted by anything. Maisie doesn't attack often and will generally go to her cats to give them a strength buff, increasing their damage, making the kittens a little more threatening as the fight goes on for longer. And this will also heal them if any damage has been done to them. Well, the simple strategy is often the best. Force Maisie to teleport to a cat that's pretty secluded from the group and just punish Maisie immediately. This will force the cat to be further away from the action, and it'll force Maisie to retreat, which you can kind of do the same thing over and over again, until you get to the point where you're going to go for the kill. If you want to deal with the kittens at the same time, I suggest having a tank that has a lot of thorns or blood thorns, as this will build up bleed on the cats and make them pretty much useless throughout the fight. Once Maisie is defeated, the kittens will run away, so your score will be affected. I'll lose items any day if it's not worth the hassle. And now we have everyone's bane of existence, Fenrir. Yet another mini boss in the alley. Fenrir has a really simple pattern. Lay down a bear trap that goes invisible and try to get into tall grass. We'll often shoot a long range attack as well, and will push back anyone who hits it in melee range. Now the best thing you can do is once Fenrir leaves a bush, lock Fenrir down with some immobilize or some form of stun, and it'll make the fight a piece of cake. If you do this early enough, there won't be as many traps to work with, and should be relatively easy. Or you can wait it out for Fenrir to walk into its own traps. You can now also trigger traps with physical attacks, so if you know where they are, you can take them out. Or the best strategy is to have tons of fire. Any amount of fire will just make it so that Fenrir cannot hide in any bushes whatsoever, as this will burn the grass, trigger more fire, and your problem is basically solved for you. It's like all these tips are just pure fire. And now we have our first actual boss, the Queen Hippo. She can be absolutely devastating for an unprepared team. One of the best and most useful strategies is to CC her, slow her down in any way, and wait out 4 rounds. She starts off at 4 brace, and at the end of every round she'll lose 1 brace, but also gain 1 speed. The more you try to slow her down and keep her at a distance, the better. But eventually that will become more and more of an issue. As with more speed, she'll be able to close the gap and get close enough to punish the crap out of you. I was using a psychic here to completely and utterly displace her using vacuum. But eventually she does close the gap and starts punishing you. Her attacks inflict bruise and does a massive knockback, and anyone that starts the turn near her gets an uppercut, which is just free damage for her. The worst case scenario is if you line up your cats too close together, or even worse if she locks you into a corner, as she will get free uppercuts and stack up bruise rather quickly, decimating a cat in no time. So either kite her around for 4 rounds, or dish out a ton of damage when the brace is low. And last for the alley, we have Radical Rat. This Rad Rat has one simple strategy: throw bombs and get results. Unfortunately, his bombs didn't get the memo and they can just be dodged in order to take no damage. Or if he throws them at anyone with thorns, it does the exact same and will completely trivialize his only mechanic. So as soon as his bombs are taken care of, their best bet is to immobilize him and throw him into the group and punish him in the most severe way you can. And yes, I know I use toss a lot, but I think it's probably one of the best abilities a tank can have. So if you're not dodging bombs, or they're not being thrown at someone with thorns, what do you do? Well, simply you just attack them. Having any form of summons goes a long way here. Sometimes even the weather can help you out. If it's raining, his bombs are completely and utterly useless, even if they hit you. They still do okay damage, but the bombs will immediately die. It's pretty damn funny. The worst case scenario is if there's any fire on the map, or if any bombs have actually gone off, as this will be able to trigger bombs instantly, and the rat will exploit this by just throwing them in fire all the time. So your best bet is to hopefully have your cats spread out enough so that they don't all just die in one hit. The fire can be beneficial though, as the rat will tend to run around a lot and catch himself on fire, so hopefully that works out for you. Now we're gonna head to the junkyard with its first mini boss, the Can Creeper. Definitely one of the more annoying mini bosses, due to not only making a ton of creep for you to have to walk through, but you can only deal damage to his face. Will often do attacks that will knock back your cats and then end his turn by facing away from them as much as possible. So your best bet is probably just going to try to surround him, maybe have some useful items that you can kind of get around that, or like by throwing them with a range and being able to hit his face. I found that the Tinkerer is pretty useful, especially when you're able to make bombs, but that's not kind of guaranteed. The Creeper also has like this X pattern shot, so if you are kind of like a little too close to him, then you kind of get a little punished. Keep in mind any attacks from his sides or back will just kind of push him around. Once you do enough damage, his can will break and he'll go into phase 2, where he can teleport anywhere in the creep that he's created, but since you'll be able to hit him normally, it should be pretty easy to put him down. And now we have Trampy. God, do I hate Trampy. Trampy has one full rotation of moves that he does throughout the entire fight. 1, he takes a shit on the ground. Pretty awesome way to start a fight. Next, he will hawk a loogie at somebody, which will do a bit of damage and blind for 2 turns. Sorry, he was confused there. This is what it actually looks like. And of course it would crit. Next, he will shake some fleas out of them. 2 at a time specifically. The fleas will run at nearby targets and, well, do flea things where they try to deal damage. Next, he will drink a bottle of liquor, giving himself a buff, healing him for 5, and potentially hitting somebody with the glass. Followed up by a simple basic melee attack. And finally, he will sleep one off, gaining 15 health. This is a good time to do your majority of damage, and hopefully you won't wake him up while he's sleeping. And now for the bosses of the junkyard, we have Chubs and Nubs. This fight can be pure chaos, as both Chubs and Nubs are blind. Both will counterattack from any damage that is received. Nubs is a 3-tile lob that will inflict poison and create a creep tile, where Chubs will have a straight line shot poison attack. They both have a spin attack which hits multiple times for 5 damage, and a jump AoE that has a lot of knockback. The best plan for these guys is to use their counterattacks against them, hopefully being able to displace them far enough away that they can shoot at each other. CC does help a little bit, but to be honest, it's better to kind of let them roam and do whatever they want, as they will often be detrimental to each other, and as long as your cats aren't in the way of it, you should be just fine. They do decent damage as well as stacking poison, so this is really great if you kind of like smush them together or just line them up properly. This works often better when you have a lot of ranged cats, so only maybe one cat will be in danger at a time, and that you can also position yourself better so that you're not getting hit by counterattacks. Or in a perfect world, they line up for the infinite, which is honestly just magical when it happens. Yes. After the junkyard, we head to the boneyard to fight Mama Maggot, the first and only mini-boss. Very simple pattern to follow. We'll spawn maggots and then mutate them. Can also use rally maggots to give them extra turns. One maggot that will swap positions with one of your other cats to lick and damage another one. The Burfer maggot does a tumor prison, which will spawn tumors that have thorns on them adjacent to the target, essentially locking them inside a prison. They only have 1 health, so they should be dealt with quickly so that you don't get overwhelmed and locked into position. Your best bet when dealing with Mama Maggot is to kind of punish her as best you can while also staying on top of all of the maggots she's spawning. Speed is a huge factor here, as if you can outspeed outspeed her, she can summon them, and then before she has a chance to mutate them, just kill them outright. And lastly, we have the boss of the Boneyard, Dybbuk, which I know for a lot of people is the bane of their existence. Dybbuk has one insanely hard mechanic to get over: its ability to dodge practically everything. Anything that targets it in any way, Dybbuk will roll a random direction and completely avoid it. Dybbuk also has a lick attack that will drain mana, and also has the ability to summon 2 wisps, which also have their own evasion. Kind of a dick move. Now, you have only a few options here. The one that is probably the most difficult is trying to get Dybbuk into a corner. If Dybbuk is surrounded on all sides, it can't dodge. That is easier said than done, unless you have a bunch of summons, which then, yeah, sure, it becomes a little easier. Eventually, Dybbuk will wiggle out of this position, which is fine. You know, the boss can't just sit there licking one guy forever. Once killed for the first time, Dybbuk will then possess a cat that did the lethal damage to it. It was poisoned in this case, so that was because of my thief, which I didn't know that Dybbuk could actually resurrect downed cats. Down the possessed cat to fight Dybbuk yet again. Dibs will still be at 1 health, so all you have to do is hit it 1 time. I was glad that I had given it no chance but to roll backwards into my attack. Now here are some better methods. Using spells that have AoE to them. Dybbuk can only dodge 1 square, so targeting anything adjacent to it should do the trick, and it'll make it very easy to finish her off when it gets to this point. Yeah, that's it. Bring AoE. And we're heading to the sewers with this one with the Rat King. Yeah, no little intro for this one. Rat King will do something simple. Spawn rats and a dash attack that hits 2 tiles wide, because, you know, it is 2 tiles wide. Also will spawn pinkies here and there, but they're like not threatening at all. I think they only have 1 health and deal 2 damage. Not threatening whatsoever. The Rat King can even tend to take out its own rats and waste turns by taking shits on the floor. So you can just focus the king down, or maybe have some AoEs or some summons of your own to take care of the rats so you don't have to. But a very simple fight. You shouldn't really struggle with the Rat King. Just try to space things out and not be close to each other. And now the other mini boss in the sewers is the Flushmaster. Not the biggest threat, but definitely an annoying one. Its main and only mechanic is the ability to use Flush. Whatever way the Flushmaster is facing will summon a huge tidal wave that will knock you back 10 tiles, possibly unleashing some mean damage, especially if your cat can counterattack. This can be avoided by trying to line your cats up with the obstacles, but depending on the map layer, that could be easier said than done. In a perfect world, you can hope to have some really high damage just to take it out in 1 turn, like so. If your cat happens to have the disorder scatological, it will outright eat the Flushmaster in 1 hit. Having good mobility is key here, and don't forget that little turret at the end. And now for the boss of the sewers, we have Boris. And honestly, he's just kind of an annoying piece of shit. The main mechanic with Boris is that he will walk towards any cat that has damaged him immediately upon taking that damage. This makes it difficult for most melee-based teams to actually get away with doing damage without dying outright. You can hopefully be on the persuasion quest and bring your daddy shark along to instantly kill him, but that's not going to be the case. Having some CC definitely helps, but also having a good map layout will do you good too, which also you can't control. But if you do have him stunned, he will not move towards any target, which would be a good time to do a lot of damage. On his final turn of the round, he will rush to a target, usually a cat that is closest to him. This is where you can try to line up behind some obstructions like these spike barricades here, but that's not always the case. Since there is water in the area, you can usually get away with freezing them if you really need to give yourself some time, but that's just kind of funny, and it's just more so if you're really under the gun. The main thing is just try to have something meaty in front of him at all times, and keep your cats kind of spread out on all the angles from him. Moving on to the caves, we have the only mini-boss here, the Big Slime. He acts like other big targets where he will just constantly slam into your group of cats, but will have this horrible ability to split itself into 4 every time it dies. The problem with that is that they all get their turn if you did it in that round, so that should just be kind of kept in mind for when you want to pop the big guy and deal with the little one, as this can give them a lot of turns to just do a lot of damage really quickly without you being able to do anything to it. Obviously, one of the best bets to have here is some AoE. I like Souling for this. This was insane. But otherwise, just keep chipping away. The little ones do next to no damage. And lastly, we have one baby spider. This one menacing spider has 10 health. Whoops, it's actually a giant spider. Spinnerette to be exact, boasting 250 health and the ability to web a lot of your cats. There will also be tons of web on the ground that you can attack to get rid of. Periodically spawn more spiders, as well as spawn spiders when hit. Will flee periodically to spawn spiders here and there. So basically just unload as much damage as you can. Keep your cats spread out so you can cover any area that the spider decides to spawn in. Just be careful when attacking the butt, as it will piss her off. That will do it for my Act 1 boss guide. Let me know in the comments if you felt this guide was useful, or if you want me to make a guide for Act 2 and beyond. But either way, I hope this helped at least one person out. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.